The ultras were very well organised, militaristic in the way that they operated. They attacked members of the local community, including taxi drivers, tore down flags, people were thrown into the river, and definitely the singing, and I think the question from one of your colleagues earlier about the no schools in Gaza, as the children were all dead. They further stated that this group specifically targeted the local Muslim community deliberately.
Can I welcome our first member of the panel, our first witness on our first panel on this one-off session that we're holding to investigate as a committee the events surrounding the decision to ban away fans at the Aston Villa Maccabi Tel Aviv game. Before we start, there are some declarations of interest. I will declare that I am an officer and member of the Conservative Friends of Israel.
I'm a member of the Labour Friends of Israel.
I've received a donation of £2,000 from the Lib Dem Friends of Israel.
Peter?
And I'm a Jewish Labour MP.
Let's start off. We very much welcome you, Lord Mann, for appearing. Would you just like to introduce yourself and then we'll get into questions?
My role is to advise government on anti-Semitism, and when I saw what happened in Amsterdam, I thought there was a danger in this country that it would lead to various consequences. I think my problem with how it was done is some of the intelligence is not very good, some of it's not intelligence at all, and the tactics used could have been better. Should there be such a fixture anywhere in the country again, so that mitigating the risk and negotiating. See, one surprising factor in negotiating with Maccabi Tel Aviv, the ultras weren't coming. So the Maccabi ultras, the so-called fanatics, weren't coming.
Can I welcome our witnesses to the second panel of our session today?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Craig Guildford, Chief Constable.
Thank you. And I think you wanted to make an opening statement, Chief Constable.
Yes, and thank you, Chair, for giving me this opportunity. We act without fear or favour. We are apolitical, and we remember what our core responsibilities are. So from the get-go, we were planning to facilitate this event, both sets of supporters at Villa Park. And regardless of any of the earlier conversations and sort of reporting around, certain elements would like the match completely banned, certainly from our perspective, that was never on the agenda. So we also instigated a community impact assessment, so we captured views of local population and also local interest groups, and those were both Jewish and Muslim. And as that situation progressed, we got to a gold meeting on the 17th of September, and we assessed that the level of the risk of disorder and disruption to be high. Then on Wednesday the 1st of October, and this is very important, is that I sat down with the Chief Inspector, who is our planning expert, who had spoken to the 3 Dutch police commanders. And this really, panel, is where the difference occurs between what Lord Mann has said and the information that was provided to the Chief Inspector. And the information provided from the Dutch was very, very clear in terms of they reflected on the days before, during and after the match as a result of clashes between the Maccabi ultras and the local Muslim community. To my knowledge, we weren't told that the ultras weren't coming. But again, we have to take some of that on face value, and we have to challenge some of that, don't we? Because these are a group of people who are intent on some very extreme violence, and they don't normally share their sort of plans of, let's say, operations with everybody openly and candidly. So in terms of what we were told, the ultras were very well organised, militaristic in the way that they operated. They attacked members of the local community, including taxi drivers, tore down flags, people were thrown into the river, and definitely the singing, and I think the question from one of your colleagues earlier about the no schools in Gaza, as the children were all dead. They further stated that this group specifically targeted the local Muslim community deliberately. Members of the local and wider Muslim community subsequently reacted and deliberately then, on the day after mainly, attacked Maccabi fans on match day, both before the match and after the match, as Lord Mann has made reference to. That's what we were told. The Dutch commanders were unequivocal. They would never want to have Maccabi Tel Aviv playing in Amsterdam again in the future. That was what they said to our Chief Inspector. The decision to restrict the away fans was based on a very careful assessment. It wasn't taken lightly, and it was taken on the basis of an assessment of the risk. And when we assess the risk, we look at information and we look at intelligence. And in particular, we were swayed by the commanders of the Dutch police and their direct reference to what happened from their perspective. Not my perspective, not Lord Mann's perspective, but their perspective to our Chief Inspector who was on that meeting. And I think the final thing I want to say is that the UK Football Policing Unit, I asked them to come and do an independent peer review of our decision making on the intelligence, the threat, the risk, the options that we took, and they've supported the decision making that was taken at the time.
You must have known that this would be a deeply controversial decision if the SAG decided to ban away fans in light of. Did it not occur that there should be due diligence done on the intelligence that had been provided?
Absolutely, and we did do our due diligence on the information and the intelligence that we were provided with. We'd liaised with the UK Football Unit. We'd got a tried and tested bronze, silver and gold command structure, and we were actively seeking and developing all the intelligence that we could all the way through, from community intelligence to online intelligence and information that we receive as an organisation. So absolutely, you're absolutely correct in what you've said there.
Do you accept that it didn't happen, or you just don't know whether it happened or not, these things?
No, just to be very clear, I believe what my Chief Inspector told me.
But he was listening to what he was being told. I'm asking you what happened. I'm not asking what he was told.
Well,
what else have you done beyond just talk to your Chief Inspector?
Well, the other thing that I've done in addition to talking to my Chief Inspector is obviously speaking to the Silver and the Gold Commander about their assessment of the information and the intelligence. That's what I've done in addition. But in terms of answering the question of what did or didn't happen in very forensic detail on the ground on the day, I wasn't there, you weren't there. I'm taking what I've been told very seriously from a professional who's got good credibility, who's been involved with this type of policing activity for years. I've got no doubt to question his integrity.
Have you
about
not
what he was
pondered
told.
why the Dutch police are now contradicting all of it?
Well, of course, we've probably all done lots of pondering.
And what's your view on that?
My view on that is that I suspect there was lots of, let's say, pressure locally on the Dutch police as a result of this match. My very careful conclusion from looking at everything and listening to what people have said, and indeed listening this afternoon to what Lord Mann said, is that I think initially the Dutch probably underestimated the level of threat and risk.
I found it quite presumptuous that you presumed that the Dutch police were under pressure. Was there any exploration of that assumption that they're under pressure to present a very different picture to your Chief Inspector than to what was the reports that we have had? Absolutely,
and that's why I went to speak to him. What do you want to elaborate on?
I can hopefully help a little bit. So our Chief Inspector Head of Policing football unit within the West Midlands Police met with the three Dutch commanders, the gold, silver and bronze. So within football or public order policing, forgive me, you have a gold strategic, tactical, silver and a bronze operational commander. He met with those three commanders in an informal, unrecorded meeting in an effort to get candour and a view in relation to their experience of policing this particular football match. They specifically referenced the political and press pressure and interest, and provided a verbal briefing to our commander, who then documented that in an email and sent it into the command chain. So that was the first part. Since then, clearly we've had the Sunday Times article, etc., whereby Sebastian Mayer has naysayed some of the elements within the WMP report. I've since spoken to Peter Holler, the Gold Commander, and Sebastian Mayer from the Dutch Police, and they are very clear they're under a lot of pressure, in their words, from City Hall. So, and their position, as reported to the Sunday Times, was, we don't recognise this, we don't recognise that, we don't recognise this. Subsequently, then, I'm led to believe they've now released a further statement with more detail, and it is very clear they seem rather apologetic to us as a force and are trying their best to provide something that is meaningful and helpful and accurate. But I think it's probably fair to say, as a West Midlands Police Commander in the West Mids who was not involved in Ajax, there is definitely some interpretation about what happened in Amsterdam.